everyone, it's Rebecca from the Glitch Stitchery here with February's Pencast. I'm still filming this from the old apartment. I figured I hadn't taken down my desk yet, so I might as well get this done, and then I would have one less thing to do in February. So today what I have for you is two size A4 notebooks. I want to start bullet journaling, and I mostly want to use my fountain pens, so I wanted to test these two and see if see which one works best. Now, those of you who have watched some of my other videos know that I use, I think it's pronounced Rhodia, I don't really know, Rhodia brand paper a lot. I use it kind of interchangeably with Midori paper for fountain pen art, the difference being that Midori is cream colored while Rhodia I use white. So like this one is my ink swatch book that I have to keep clipped shut because it's always, so yeah, I just swatch my inks in here. So this one is an A5, and as you can see, it is half the size of an A4. That's how paper sizes work. So if you get, I'm all discombobulated this morning. If you buy an A6 is half the size of an A5, and A7 is half the size of an A6. That's just how paper sizes work. So these are A4. That is my favorite size. It's similar to the size of a piece of printer paper. So we have the Rhodia Notebook. This one's a hardcover blank notebook. And this is my first time getting one with an actual cover. I usually buy the dot books or the little flip covered ones. This one is a better paper, so it's 96 sheets of 90, I forget what that stands for. I'll just say 90G paper. So the original one is 80G. So this is a thicker paper. Now this one is a brand I have not tried before. This is a Minimalism Art hardcover. It's going to have dotted pages. It's more pages. And it's 120G, so the paper should be thicker than the Rhodia. In my experience, thickness does not always equal better with fountain pens. There are some notebooks that have really thick paper but are too toothy, or just not good quality paper, and then they just don't take the fountain pens well and they still bleed and whatever. Actually, before I started buying Rhodia and Midori, I used mixed media notebooks from the art supply store, and those work fairly well. You have to feel them while you're in the store to see what the paper texture's like. Because they're mixed media, they're used for all sorts of things, paint and markers. But some of them have, sorry about the plastic, some of them have more texture than others. I would buy the smoothest brand I could find at the time. What brand was that? Probably Canson. I bought a lot of Canson. All right, Rhodia one is free of plastic. Now for Minimalism Art. I hate that noise. And you're thinking, what are you doing to cause that squeaking? That's my fingers. It's my skin squeaking on plastic. For some reason. Okay. So as I'm getting them open, one thing I did notice when I was opening this one, I already knew this one had two strings, but it looks like the Rhodia one does have a string. I didn't think it did, so that's good to know. They are pretty much the same dimensions, just Minimalism Art has more pages. So I'm gonna see if I can change the camera so that it's right above for the ink tests, and I will be right back. All right, so as I opened it, I realized I bought a cream colored Rhodia instead of a white. That's my own fault. They do sell both. And that is not a knock against the paper. I'm sure I can buy a white one for the next one. It's not a big deal. The paper quality should be about the same. So I have my pens here, and I have added a few of them since my last video, but they haven't been filled yet because I'm waiting until we get into the new place so I don't have to transport a bunch of fully inked pens. Let's see, what else do I need? Let's see if I can reach. I just wanted to make sure that I wrote down the right colors when I was filling this out. I haven't re-inked them since the last video because, like I said, I'm trying to empty them out. So I'm going to test each of the pens, and that's probably about it. Test the inks, make sure they didn't bleed onto the other side, and then I'll go to the other notebook and do the same thing. So this one, I'll just write. You'll see what it is. The only thing with the Rhodia paper is occasionally my Pilot nibs specifically will skip on it. And I'm not really sure why. And it's really annoying because the majority of my pens are Pilot. So most of the time I just ignore it. But if it's something for me specifically to do as like a de-stressing thing, then I want it to work perfectly. Let's see, Lamy Azurite. Side note, if you want a color that is like somewhere in between blue and purple and looks really good on both cream and white paper, Lamy Azurite, it's beautiful. All right, this one. Getting lazier with writing down the pen names, but let's be honest here, I've written the names so many times lately. I really like the shading that you can see in the Diamine inks on this paper. They do shade really nicely. Ooh, that looks nice too. And I'm especially testing because all of my nibs are broad or bigger except for like one or two. Like this one's a zoom, which is pretty much like a triple broad. So gotta make sure it can handle really wet inks. I should really test Noodler's Heart of Darkness on here too, but I can't reach it from where I am right now, so I'll do that one later. All right, my only fine nib right here. And while I know it's not going to bleed, I do want to know if it's going to be scratchy, because that is important. So Pilot Lucina, yellow, fine nib. It's not as smooth as a broad nib, of course, because it's physically impossible for it to be. But it's not particularly scratchy either. I'm not having any issues with it. Now, this is one I keep having skipping issues with. I'm not sure why. I thought it might have been the ink, but then I changed the ink. I'm not sure what's going on with this one. Guess I'll wash it out and try the ink. Try a different ink again, because maybe it just doesn't like this ink, or maybe it doesn't like this converter, because that could also be a possibility. I don't normally use the Con 50s. Maybe they are causing some flow issues. I'm not sure. I know they don't seem to have a bead in them, so that might be related to it. I don't really know. Don't want to go back to the Con 40s though, because they suck. Alright, I have one more pen inked up. Those last two in my case have not been inked yet. So apparently overseas they do have hard versions of the Pilot Falcon nib, but I can't for the life of me figure out why anyone would want that. The whole point is that they're soft nibs, isn't it? All right, I'm just going to show you these so you have a taste of what's going to be in my next Pencast. But I got the White Magnolia Sailor Pro Gear Slim with a broad nib. I'm still deciding what ink I'm going to put in that for its first fill. And this one is the Pilot Custom Heritage 74 with a music nib. That one's a little hard to find in the United States. So anyway, so this is what we've got for the pen test on the Rhodia paper. Now, I'm hoping you can see it. Specifically, the Pilot cartridges do have a little bit of feathering. I've noticed that on all of the Rhodia paper. I have not seen any significant difference between this paper and the paper I have been using in the cheaper notebooks. There's a tiny bit of feathering here too, and here. It's not enough so that it would make me not use them at all, but it is interesting. Now if I turn the page, there is significant ghosting, although I don't see any bleed through. When I'm drawing with them, I have these plastic things that go behind the page so I don't leak onto the next page. And I would probably do that for bullet journaling too. But with bullet journaling, I definitely want to be able to use both sides of the page. So this one is not my top pick, but it kind of depends on how the Minimalism Art fares. All right, this one has a really nice cover. It's thicker than the Rhodia cover, and it has this really nice texture to it. I guess this is a business card. I'll leave it in there for now. Name and address page. Oh, it comes with a table of contents. That's awesome. And then the pages are numbered, even better. All right, both of those features will save me some time. So, last page in the book, page 186. This will be my ink test page. The only problem with buying ones with grids on them is I tend to try to match my handwriting to the grid. So, Pilot Falcon. And this paper is incredibly smooth. I'm not feeling any sort of texture on it whatsoever as I'm writing. Depending on whether or not you like textured paper, that could or could not be a good thing. And I do see some feathering around the Pilot Falcon. I seem to have a lot of feathering issues with Pilot cartridges in general. Once I empty them out, I might start filling the cartridges themselves with a different ink and see if that helps with that issue. Or it might just be because it's a Falcon and they are kind of wet writers for me. So maybe I'll try some Diamine inks in the Falcons because those are pretty well behaved. I don't usually have any issues with Diamine. I also have like 50 different bottles. I don't know if I said this. PGS means Pro Gear Slim. I just hate writing that out. This one's also a Diamine ink. And I do have one more sailor pen that you haven't seen yet in a video, but I'm gonna save that one for the next one. It was the first gold nibbed pen I ever bought, but it has kind of a specialized nib, so I don't really use it very often. It is lovely though, so I'll show it to you next time. Maybe fill it up when we get into the new apartment. I also have one more Sailor and 2 more Pilot on the way, but they're coming from Japan, so it will probably be a while. Now with the fine nib, the Pilot cartridge does not have any, well actually it does have some feathering, so maybe it is just that the Pilot cartridge is feather. That's something to keep in mind. Specifically, I'm using the Pilot cartridges that are technically made for the that calligraphy thing. Pilot Parallel. I think they're called Pilot Mix Free. And I know it says not to use them in the other pens, but their colors are so great. So I use them in a lot of my Pilot pens. But they're just very picky about the paper. 74, right? Now, unfortunately, Minimalism Art does not seem to make a blank version of the A4 notebook. I could only find the dot grid. That's not really the end of the world. I am fine with a dot grid for the most part, and it will make it easier to make lines and boxes and such. I do, under normal circumstances, prefer a blank notebook, though. Alright, so that is all of them that I have inked up. Oh wait, no, I guess I can do these 2 as well. Well, 3. What did I load these with? This one I've been just washing out and putting new samples in. So right now it has, let's see, some Moonman C1, Franklin Christoph broad nib. I think it has Monteverde Purple Mist in it, which is like this 4th sample I've put in there because I'm working through them as quickly as I can. This one's a kind of a weird purple, mainly because I don't know, it has some really interesting shading to it. All right, and I brought a tissue over because for some reason I always get ink on the grip with my Lamys. I don't know why. So this one, does it matter that the nib I put in is from a different model? I don't think it actually affects the writing with it. I just really liked the black LX nibs. As far as I know, they write the same as the plain steel ones. And then this one, clean it up as well for the same reason. Although this one actually does it less than the All-Star for whatever reason. Don't get me wrong, I like the All-Stars. I just have a lot of ink leaking type issues with them. I think they don't seal well or something. What was in this? Maybe bronze. Okay. So in terms of the paper, it's really, really smooth. It's not quite pure white. It has a very, very subtle cream touch to it, which doesn't really bother me, to be honest. The only inks I really had any issues with are the Pilot cartridges. Had some feathering, and I think it's just the Pilot cartridges, to be honest. This one looks weird, but I don't think it's feathering. I think it's just the way this color shades, because it does some really funky things. Yeah, I don't see anything else of issue. I didn't have any hard starting issues with this pen on this paper, even though I did on the Rhodia. Let's see what the back looks like. You can see the words, but not distinctly. So there is some ghosting, but very little. I could still write on both sides of this. It wouldn't bother me. There's no bleed through. I think if I did a really heavy application of ink, there'd probably be some bleed through, but I don't see any right now. So if I compare that to the Rhodia one, let's see if I can get it open quickly enough. There does seem to be more feathering on the Rhodia than on the Minimalism Art. And I was having hard start issues with the pilots on the Rhodia, but not on the Minimalism Art. That might also be because I was already writing with them, so they're already primed up for this one, but it is interesting. I do love Rhodia paper, and I use it a lot for drawing and doodling. Not so much with pilot inks, but I've been using it for all of my ink sampling doodles. Let's see if I can reach those. I haven't packed them up yet. Okay, so this is white Rhodia paper. And I don't really see any feathering issues with these. Like this one, it's Monteverde DC Supershow Teal. Pilot Aroshizuku Kurasame, something like that. Lamy Bronze, Diamine Apple Glory, Monteverde Purple Mist. So no issues with any of those on the white Rhodia paper, and this is the 80G paper, while the one in the book is the 90G paper. So I think it is just pilot. That said, I feel like the Minimalism Art paper behaved a lot better. I like that I can probably use both sides of the paper without any issues. And I mean, it also has the fact that it's already numbered and has an index built in, so that should work nicely for my purposes. And then I'll just use the Rhodia one for drawing. So thank you so much for sticking with me for the entirety of this very long video. And I hope to do some more like this for you soon, trying out different papers, comparing them. There are a few other brands of notebook I might be comparing in the future. And I know next video I'm going to be doing my monthly inkings for all of my pens to get them all inked up, as well as the 2 new ones will get their first ever ink, and I'll get to test them out. And hopefully the other new ones will come too, so I can do them all at once. That'd be fun. So thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon.